Tim, judging the that series, when did you feel like there was ever any confidence that they could come back? Because obviously no team did come back from down 3-1. Were you thinking they were going to come back at any point, or were you still thinking, oh no, it's the Warriors, they're a 73-win team, they'll get it done at some point? When did you think that the Cavs could come back?
That's a great question. I mentioned earlier that I was working for an affiliate station on the Cavs radio network during that time, and I was doing a live pregame show on the floor of Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse during every NBA playoff game, including the finals. And when we were on the floor for Game 5, I'll be the first to tell you, I thought the NBA season was going to come to an end that night. I thought Golden State was going to win it in Cleveland. And when the Cavs won Game 5, I still think there was a lot of doubters. Like, well, you're going to go out there and win, or you're going to come back home and win Game 6. I should say, when we were on the floor for Game 6, I truly felt they were going to win it. And then I thought, boy, now it's one game. And I have a theory. I don't know if it's right or not. I think everybody has a theory, but I have a theory if it's a one-game series and you've got the best player on the floor, you've got a really good shot. And, I don't think there's any doubt in 2016, keep in mind, Golden State didn't have Durant at that time, that LeBron was the best player on the floor and in the league. And you go out to Golden State, and I think it's been well documented. He told those guys when they left Golden State in Game 5, you find a way to get us over the hump in Game 6, and I'll carry us in Game 7. And boy, he did. It was just amazing. So, I'll say once they won Game 6, I actually had a pretty good feeling they were going to win Game 7 out in Golden State because, man, the pressure really went on the Warriors at that point.
We are talking to the voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Tim Alcorn. Tim, I've watched Collin Sexton play for years in college. I mean, this is college and high school ball. This is a kid that I followed for years, and they drafted him a couple of years ago, and he's turned into a sensational point guard. A lot of people didn't think that this kid was going to really develop into the player that he is today. What are your thoughts to him as a player in the NBA?
Well, I think Collin Sexton has come a long way. You've got to remember, like most college players now, he didn't have a lot of experience coming into the NBA, kind of learning on the fly. In fact, he just turned 21 in the month of February. So, he's still got a long road ahead of him. But he really closed out the 18-19 season on a flourish. He was playing very, very well after the All-Star break. Late February, March, and then, of course, the year ended in April, and he had a terrific back half of the campaign. Now the Cavaliers draft Darius Garland in the first round of the draft last June, so Garland and Sexton have to get used to playing with one another as far as, a very young backcourt this year, Garland the rookie, and Sexton only his second year. But boy, Collin Sexton, once he got comfortable playing with Darius Garland and obviously Kevin Porter Jr., another rookie on the Cavalier roster, Sexton just became this consistent scoring machine from about early February on. He was just racking up game after game of 20-plus points. He had career highs in 3 consecutive ball games. He's a very consistent scorer, and his game is improving. So I think the upside, I think the ceiling for Collin Sexton is just tremendous.
Tim, I know a lot of people know the story between LeBron James and Dan Gilbert. And Dan Gilbert is a very emotional owner. He likes to talk to his players and talk to the fans as well. He sends out letters. He talks to newspapers, and he loves to go in Cleveland. He loves to go on radio shows. We all know about Dan Gilbert. But what are your thoughts to their relationship when he was in Cleveland, LeBron was in Cleveland, and now that he's away from Cleveland? Are they ever going to build a relationship ever again after him handing his first LeBron giving him his first championship and giving Cleveland his first championship and then practically pushing LeBron away?
That's a good question, and I don't think anybody ever really knows truly the relationship between management and a player, ownership and a player. I will say this, uh, you know, Dan was very upset, as was the entire Cleveland fan base, when LeBron left Cleveland the first time and went to Miami. He was much more gracious, and he was much more complimentary of LeBron when LeBron went to L.A. A couple of years ago. So, I think there were some mending of fences. As I alluded to earlier, LeBron put an inordinate amount of pressure on himself to say, my goal is to bring a championship to Cleveland, and he did it. And I think Dan Gilbert has recognized that, in his goodbye letter, for lack of a better term, to LeBron when LeBron went to the Lakers. He said, we'll welcome you back when we hang your number from the rafters. So, I think in the smoke of of war, as they say, sometimes things get lost. But now that the two sides have kind of been through those battles together, I think there's respect on both sides, and certainly, as I said, LeBron delivered on what he promised. So I think Dan Gilbert really respects that and appreciates that.
Tim, last question for me. This is actually referring to your broadcast career. I found an interesting story about when you were with your previous station before you became with the Cavs play-by-play. And it's interesting that I found out you actually interviewed one of the high school football coaches that I think won a state championship from a bathroom stall. Is there an interesting backstory to how that ended up happening?
Yeah, well, when you did high school sports for as long as I did it, there were, oh my Lord, there's a multitude of stories I could tell. And the gentleman that was doing that article, he said, what's one of the more interesting ones? And that's true. We were looking for a place to do a pregame, conversation for 5 or 6 minutes, and there were all sorts of football players roaming around, 50, 60 football players, and he's like, man, it's loud, it's not background noise, and it was actually the coach that said, well, I know there's somewhere we can go that if we lock the door, nobody's coming in. And next thing I know, we were straddling a toilet in the men's room, and that's where we did the pregame interview. And it was it was one of those things you look back on, and you guys know if you're in broadcasting, you
Absolutely.
just find a way to get the job done, no matter how you have to get it done. So, and you know what? I loved doing high school sports. I still keep in touch with the high school coaches and those who I interacted with at that radio station, and great memories, great times, and there's something very special about it. But that being said, I'm incredibly blessed to now be doing Cavaliers basketball. It's my first year on the job, and I have absolutely loved every minute of it.
Tim, how's your family doing from all the COVID-19? And really, you told me you have a lot of family that is from Long Island. How's your family doing?
Well, here in Ohio, my family's doing well. My wife and I have 4 older children. We have a daughter who's in Columbus, Ohio, which is pretty much in the middle of the state, and she's down there, and she's doing well. We've got another daughter who was at law school at Michigan State up in East Lansing, but they pretty much closed everything down, and so she came home with us for the last few weeks of her semester just to be around some people. So she came back home, and then we have 2 sons that are here with us. So, all in all, knock on wood, we're doing very, very well. And as I mentioned to you before we came up live, I do have a lot of family in the Long Island area. My mom's side of the family is from New York, and actually I have a brother that lives right outside of Albany, not quite where you are, but in the New York area. So my best wishes and my prayers are with all of those in New York. Certainly, this has been staggering for the whole country, but boy, your state has just been incredibly hard hit. So thoughts and wishes with everybody in the Empire State.
The great Tim Alcorn, guys. If you guys don't know who he is, he's the voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is his first year, by the way, which he actually told Speedy. Speedy didn't even know it was his first year. So, Tim, why don't you tell everybody how they can find you?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. How they what?
Tell everybody how they can find you on social media.
Oh, social media. Well, I'm on Twitter at Cavs Alcorn. Cavs Alcorn. I'm on Facebook. It's a public account, so I do a lot of posting about the Cavaliers on those two. So believe me, if anybody wants to hit me up, they're more than welcome to.
One more question before I let you go. Are we going to have an NBA season?
Well, I think that's the great question, not only for the NBA, but really the American society as a whole, as far as when we're coming back
Right.
and what will it look like when we come back. I know NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has said he'll look at things on May 1st, which will be this Friday. There'll be an evaluation as far as what will be the direction going forward. But I couldn't even harbor a guess, because I don't think anybody really knows what the future holds, be it the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, or in any line of work. It's just this moment of uncertainty in our nation's history. But I think if we listen to the medical experts and listen to the scientists and do what they suggest and the warnings that they heed, I think we'll all make it through just fine. But this certainly has been devastating, and so as I mentioned earlier, not just for New York but for everybody, thoughts and prayers. So NBA basketball certainly keeps not only the franchises, the players, and the employees of the franchises in mind, but the fans. So all that being said, we'll see. I think that's the best answer that really anybody has at this point.
Well, if we have a season, I would love to get you back on and talk some Cleveland Cavalier basketball.
Oh, man, I would love to do it. You guys have been fun, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. And, again, to everybody on Long Island or wherever they may be listening, stay safe and be well.
Thank you, Tim, for joining us.
All right. Thank you for having me.